Good morning, Max. How are you doing today?
I'm doing really well.
You are? You're still? You're like last week. You're still lying on your bed here. So are you really doing good?
I am. It's been a time, and I think I you know what? It's been hard enough for me, Julien. If there's a way you could tell a story, maybe that would help me this week. Is I can have something instead of dealing with all my woes and cares.
So that's a painful
Anything you
one.
could share?
I mean, if you want someone to share the pain, I can share one. And the worst part of this story, so it's again about transportation, it's about online booking, and it's about refund. But if I had, I mean, the most terrible part of this story I'm about to share is it was meant to be a very positive story. It started with a problem, obviously, but it started very well. I was thrilled, and now 2 months later, I'm incredibly frustrated. So let me try to share that story. Let me try to see how I can make it as short as possible. So I live in Paris. I'm planning on visiting my family, my parents and brother in the east of France. So I'm planning on taking train. I usually don't like to share brand names, but I mean, there is only one railroad company in France. So I'm guessing you're going to find out who I'm talking about pretty quickly. And actually, that would be misleading to name them because you have a different company selling the tickets and a company actually managing the train. So
okay.
I'm not.
So huge opportunity for things to get dropped.
Exactly. So let me try to see how I can make it as simple as possible. I book tickets from the app. I'm a big app user because I hate having to print my tickets. I use the app for everything. The app experiencing is incredibly disconnected still, but still I use it. So I buy my tickets online. I buy for myself, my baby, and my wife. We choose a date. All is good. Now, unfortunately, my wife has something coming up. She can't go to my parents' place in the same time as my daughter and me. I just need to change a train ticket so that she can come late at night. And I don't want to change for myself simply because I don't want my daughter to go to bed too late. That would be difficult for her. She's still very young.
Okay.
Right?
If that's not simple, how do you run a railroad?
Well, you'd be surprised. So I go in the app and there is a super simple way to say change a date. So, okay, I pick the new thing. Incredibly simple. Very good experience. And then everything is confirmed as done. A week goes by and then I'm like, I usually receive a confirmation email. Maybe they don't send confirmation email for change ticket. Maybe they just do it for a new ticket. So I go in the app and I see the return ticket for the three of us. I see one-way ticket for myself and my daughter. I no longer see one-way ticket for my wife. I'm like, well, something is weird here. So I call the customer service. I'm going to skip a few steps ahead because I could talk about it for an hour. I had a total of 4 or 5 calls. Cannot tell you how long I waited on the line because I'm getting used to it at this point. Few people, the first 2 calls, they dropped. Like in the middle of conversation, it was, it's not even it drops. It sends me to a voicemail saying, thank you so much for calling us. We hope to serve you again next time. And then it cuts. And I'm just wondering, we were in the middle of a conversation. How did it come to that? Maybe a bug. God. Maybe they pressed the wrong number. Next call, same thing happened. They have no idea what's happening.
They just don't like you.
Yeah, well, that's highly possible. I wouldn't blame them for that. It goes on and on. 4 or 5 people over the phone. The last one just tell me, look, that's a technical issue. I have no idea what happened, but it's obviously technical because we should not have canceled, especially that your return ticket is still here. I was explaining, how is my wife coming back if you never send her there in the first place? And so it was obvious, technical issue. They filed a technical report. I'm supposed to receive an answer within 48 hours. 5 days later, still no feedback. I call again. Oh, yeah, you're right. No one responded. Yeah, I kind of know that. So what's the status? Still nothing happened. Still incredibly frustrating. Finally, a few days before we take that train, I called them again and they said, look, here's what I suggest. Book a new ticket and then file a report to say you want to be reimbursed for the first one because they actually canceled it, but they did not pay back for it. I said, okay, but the problem is that now it's last minute. So the ticket is like 3 times the price of the original one. And on top, I'm not even sure I'm going to get the time I want. Say, you know what? I'm going to do it with you. Don't worry. So they helped me book it.
Okay, as they should. That's familiar. That makes sense.
That was very good. And they said, well, you were actually right. It's 2.5 times more expensive. But again, I'm going to help you file that so that you will be reimbursed the difference. So they helped me do the whole thing. And then I wait. So I go on the trip. 1 week passed, 2 weeks passed, still no feedback. So I call again. And at that point, I'm tired of calling only. I realize, hey, they have WhatsApp. And that's where it's supposed to become a fantastic story because I love customer service with WhatsApp. So I send them an email, I give them a call, and I start chatting on WhatsApp, just making sure I cover everything. They have no response. They keep sending the ball back and forth to different services. Oh, sorry, now it's with finance. Oh, sorry, it's with technical. Oh, now it's with the fraud department. Like, what the link was a fraud? Well, we had a technical issue, so there could be fraud involved, and we need to reimburse something, so it has to go to the fraud department. All right, can I talk to them? No, you have to come through me, but I can have a chat with them. 2 months. It took 2 months of back and forth. I'm not even going to list everything I've done. That got so crazy. After 2 months, I lost my shit. I started preparing my, usual, I'm going to spam you system. I spent 2 hours writing different emails, changing my IP addresses, setting up the whole thing. The first email goes through of my spam sequence. They respond to this one and say, oh, you've just been reimbursed yesterday. I was like, why did I build all that stuff for? But actually, they only reimbursed the initial ticket they canceled. They consider it was not their fault, and I would have to open a new ticket if I wanted to be reimbursed the difference.
For the 2.5 times.
So at that point, for now I gave up. I'm not sure if I'm going to get back to it or not. It was just too painful. And it's not like you have an alternative. They have a monopoly at this point. So
Right.
Oh, God, just... you were talking last week or the week before about, having to harass customer service. I've been doing it for 2 months, several times a week, over 3 channels, phone, WhatsApp, and email. I'm just tired. I'm frustrated. I probably need to take your slot on the bed at this point.
Yeah. Oh man, that's brutal. It talked about this a little bit when we did our follow-up show. Follow-up is so often where everything breaks down, right? It's like, I'm sitting here, I can take calls. Contact centers seem to be, once you get out of the comfort zone of, I can take a call, I can respond to it. If there's any follow-up, if there's anything that needs to be done, that's when it's fraught with peril. That's when it's just too much to expect it to happen, almost, it feels like. And that's not okay. It's, and we talked about that last time a little bit. And, especially, it's got to be so frustrating for you, because in a situation like this where it was clearly their fault, they admitted it was their fault. They were just completely open about that. To then have to turn around and say, yeah, but you're going to have to spend hours and hours and hours working on us to get what we agree we owe you. It's just completely, totally, and absolutely unacceptable.
And it's not just the money part. The money part is one thing, but it's, I have to follow up multiple times. It is, I have to buy a new ticket where you admitted that your system canceled my initial ticket for no reason. How is it for me to pay the effort? Not even talking about the money, but how is it for me to buy a new ticket again?
Hey, you know what? That really strikes me. The simple answer was to comp you that ticket. I don't know, and obviously they don't have a system that allows that. But imagine if they just said, you know what? We got your money for your first ticket. I've got a ticket here. We're going to discount it to zero. Everything would have been done. And is that really that hard to do? Why can't that happen?
Exactly. That would have been the right thing to do. And then there is something terrible that if we need to analyze this, we're back to the same story again. It's all about silos. How is it possible that I deal with customer service, with the fraud department, with the financial department, with the technical department, and none of them is able to, and I can't even actually talk to all of them. I know they're somehow managing my case. None of them is able to give me a straight answer. The best I got was, I didn't even tell that part of the story, but the best I got in terms of expectation is the financial department will or will not approve your request within 20 days. So you can bet that on the 21st day, I was on their back day after day.
Right.
No proactivity, no responses whatsoever. And, 20 days, it took 2 months. So you make the calculation, they were way over what they promised. I find this incredibly frustrating. That is, and it's honestly probably cost them way more than just reimbursing the ticket on the first call.
Tons more. Yeah. It's, I the silos thing, it just keeps coming up over and over and over. And the costs of the back end processes not working. Again, customer sat to some extent doesn't matter in this case because it's not like you can go anywhere else. So
right.
You're now hopefully they're better people than that and they care a little bit. But yeah, I think what you hit there in the end is probably the biggest thing is what is the cost of not having these things stitched together? When the agent doesn't have access to what they need, or you can't get to the person that can solve it, it's just inexcusable, just across the board.
And I must say, to your point, actually, most of the people I've talked to were absolutely lovely, very empathetic, very apologetic, really trying to help. There was just one where I really lost it over WhatsApp, where they kind of asked me, "What is it all about?" And I'm just like, seriously, read the 50 messages above and figure it out. I'm not going to re-explain all, especially that when I talk to customer service, I'm really going through everything. I'm making sure you got all the references, all the price points, all the dates, all the numbers. So you can't complain that you're missing any piece of information. So everything is there. Please read. Don't bother me asking again. But yeah, no, people have been great. I think that's mostly a processes issue because, as you said, if they would just allow their agents to fix it by, hey, let me reimburse that ticket. Solved, fixed. Let's move on to next customer. Let's close that ticket. Everyone is happy. This is terrible, and that's probably even worse for them than it is for me. So, well, there is that.
Yeah, and think about, oh my God, the cost. Sounds like there were probably 3 or 4 people reviewing this at a time, different flavors, and the finance people and all of that. I mean, yeah, this whole thing could end up costing them $1,000 pretty easily.
Exactly.
And that's before you start spamming with emails.
Yeah. Well, I had to stop it immediately because I responded, unfortunately. I would have loved to be able to spam a little bit for 3 or 4 days, but hey, they took the fun out of it. So,
well, does this help? You feel any better?
Kinda. I'm still very frustrated. I still didn't get the rest of my money, and I still will have to travel with them next time I go back to my parents' place. So better, not great, but better, I guess. So thank you for that, Max. And I guess you can cry on my shoulder next week then. It will be fair.
All right. That sounds good. All righty.
Perfect.
Thanks, Julien.
Thanks a lot, Max. Bye.
Take care. Bye.